John Colter, an American who was built different from literally everyone else at the time. One of America's first mountain men, he did stuff from hunting with Lewis and Clark, to establishing trade with American Indian tribes, to being the first white guy to see Yellowstone. The same guy who disobeyed orders to get drunk, then got court-martialed for pulling a gun on one of his superior officers. I'm telling you, he was built different. John Colter was born in Virginia around 1775. He moved to Kentucky in 1779 and lived most of his childhood and early adult life there. It was the frontier, so he had to learn to be a hunter and a woodsman, because what else is there to do? Not too much else is known about his early life, though. Colter was enlisted and joined the expedition on October 15, 1803. And his skills were immediately put to good use, as he is often listed as hunting and bringing back lots of game for the group. His name comes up over 200 times in various journal entries from the expedition. Almost all of them talk about his ability to hunt. But he wasn't just a cracked hunter. When messages needed to be sent out between separated parties, Colter would be the go-to guy to deliver these messages, sometimes over pretty long distances. When members of the expedition went missing, it was usually Colter who was chosen to track them down and find them. He was always sent ahead to scout the area, finding safer paths through the mountains and better routes to take when they approached difficult terrain. At one point, he was tasked with retracing a route through the Bitterroot Mountains to recover lost horses and supplies. Not only did he come back with the supplies and horses, but he brought back extra deer to gift to the hospitable Nez Perce tribes in the area. Colter was noted by Lewis for his ability to barter with native tribes, which was super helpful when you're in their territory, and it's a good way to get supplies and build good relations. Colter was also hella tough too. Colter never appeared on any sick lists, he was always super healthy, he was one of the few hunters allowed to leave the camp during times of widespread sickness. On June 18, 1806, Lewis describes, in his words, Colter's horse fell with him in passing Hungry Creek, and himself and horse were driven down the creek a considerable distance rolling over each other among the rocks. He fortunately escaped without injury or loss of his gun. So he and his horse fall down a short rocky ledge. Colter and the horse are rolling over each other, going over rocks. The average horse weighs about 1,100 pounds. It's like getting run over by 4 fridges a couple times, but he comes out unscathed and is still holding on to his gun. Crazy. On the expedition, he was well known for his scouting, hunting speed, survival skills, and a sense of direction that aided with map making. On August 15, 1806, Colter went to the captains of the expedition and was like, "Hey, I know that the expedition ain't over yet. This has been fun and all, but I'm kinda done. You guys mind if I dip and go with these fur trappers I met? I'm trying to get some beaver furs." The captain said, "Sure, but if you go, everyone else needs to stay until we get back to St. Louis." The rest of the party was like, "Colter's a real one, we're good with staying, let him go if he wants to." The party even topped off his supplies before he left. Colter was discharged from the expedition on August 16, 1806. Colter left the expedition to join frontiersmen Forrest Hancock and Joseph Dixon. They went from lower Missouri to the Yellowstone Valley and ended up in what's known today as Three Forks, Montana. Soon after they got to Montana, they went their separate ways. In 1807, Colter decided, it's about time I head back to civilization, so he makes his way back to St. Louis. When he's about 1 week away from reaching St. Louis, he runs into the Missouri Trading Company, which consists of a few of the same guys he knew from the Lewis and Clark expedition. He took one look and was like, why not? And joined them to go back into the wild. While with them, he helps build and stays at Fort Raymond. In October 1807, he leaves the fort. He travels over 500 miles to establish trade with the Crow Nation. Colter agreed to travel hundreds of miles in winter, in areas that get to below freezing temperatures, unguided, and by himself. Absolutely wild. During the winter, he explored the areas we now call Yellowstone National Park and Grand Teton National Park. Just chilling on his own. Imagine seeing this stuff for the first time. Like the first white guy to be around these parts. Around March or April, he decides to head back to the fort. It's 1809. Colter and John Potts, another guy from the Lewis and Clark expedition, are trapping beaver in the area. A year earlier, both of them were involved in a battle between the Crow Indians and the Blackfeet Indians, so they were pretty cautious of the Blackfeet. During the day, they'd hide, and then when it got dark, and at nighttime, they'd set up their traps, and then they'd only pull and check their traps the following morning. One morning, while canoeing up the Jefferson River to check on one of those traps, they started hearing a loud noise. It sounded like a stampede of animals. They weren't able to see since the banks of the river were pretty high up. Colter immediately was like, "Hey, I think it's Indians, so we should probably leave." Potts then responds with something like, "Nah, couldn't be. It's definitely buffalo." So they kept going up the river. After a few minutes, Blackfeet Indians start to gather up on both sides of the water. The account says that there were about 500 to 600 of them, which the Blackfeet start signaling them to come to shore. Realizing that retreating was pretty much impossible now, Colter turned the canoe and went towards the shore. But as the front of the canoe touches land, an Indian snatches Potts' rifle. Colter gets up and out, responds with a nuh-uh, and immediately snatches the gun back and hands it back to Potts, who is still in the canoe. Potts then pushes the canoe back into the water. The Blackfeet see this and start shooting arrows at him. Potts actually gets wounded and yells from the canoe, "Yo, John, I'm hit." Colter then yells back, "There's no way we're getting out of it like this, so get back here." To which Potts understandably says, "Actually, I'm good. I'd rather not go back to shore." Potts then takes aim and shoots one of the Blackfeet. Potts probably felt like he didn't have a choice because the Blackfeet weren't known for being one of the nice tribes. They were known for, capturing and torturing prisoners. Seeing one of their own get killed by Potts, they all shoot arrows at him. He was instantly pierced with so many arrows that, in the words of John Colter, he was made a riddle of. Essentially, he was a porcupine now. They then brought his body to shore and started hacking it and ripping it to pieces. Colter is just standing there because what else was he going to do? The Blackfeet then grab Colter, strip him entirely naked, and while he's standing there, the Blackfeet start to discuss amongst themselves how they want to kill him. The initial idea is to have him be marked and set up as an archery target, but then they, scratch the idea because they thought it was dumb or something. The chief then puts a hand on Colter's shoulder and asks, "Aight, my boy, are you fast?" Since Colter had done work with the Crow Indians a ton, he understood the Blackfoot language pretty well, along with understanding their customs. So at this point, he probably knew that he was going to have to run for his life, literally, with horrible odds against him. Colter responds to the chief saying, "I'm alright." Colter was regarded by many on the expedition to be a really good runner. The chief commands the party to remain stationary and then led Colter out on the prairie about 300 to 400 yards ahead and then released him, telling him to run. Colter took off. As soon as he started running, he heard a loud war cry behind him and the sounds of Indian warriors running and chasing after him. Naked and alone, barefoot, sprinting through the prairie over rocks and various plants like prickly pears. Colter was known for having a good internal map and good sense of direction. He had been in the area before, so he knew where he was and where to go. He proceeded towards the Jefferson Fork, which was about 6 to 7 miles away. He was about halfway across the plain before he looked behind him. It seemed that most of the Blackfeet were scattered at pretty far distances behind him, except for one. One of the warriors who carried a spear was significantly ahead of the rest, staying only about 100 yards behind Colter. Colter then turns back and keeps looking ahead, keeps running. Mind you, this is a 6-mile sprint. Imagine the lactic acid cooking his legs, his lungs gasping for air and the burning sensation. At some point during the sprint, he starts bleeding, spraying blood out of his mouth and nose with every breath he takes. When Colter is about a mile from the river, he looks back again. And at this point, almost all the warriors chasing him were pretty much out of sight, except for one. The same spear-wielding warrior was now only 20 yards behind him. Colter then hits the brakes, immediately stops, turns around, and spreads out his arms. The Blackfoot warrior was caught by surprise, but still throws his spear at Colter. Due to the surprise mixed with the exhaustion and hitting him all at once, causes him to fall over mid-throw. The spear misses the bloody spread eagle John Colter. Colter then picks up the spear and staples the warrior to the ground, killing him before turning around and continuing his escape. He arrives at the Jefferson River and jumps in, swimming down and hiding underneath a beaver dam. Eventually, many of the other Blackfoot warriors make it to the river, but they couldn't find Colter. They were there all day looking for him. Once night hit and Colter was sure he couldn't hear the Blackfeet anymore, he swam out from under the dam, and in the blistering heat, being completely naked, his bare feet absolutely cooked and cut up, Colter made a 7 to 11 day trek to a nearby trading fort, where he eventually recovered and went back to his fur trapping and hunting ways. In 1810, Colter went out with 2 other guys on a hunting and trapping excursion. He left the 2 to go check on his traps one day, and when he came back, he found both of them dead, killed by the Blackfeet Indians. The nearby fort reported that the Blackfeet had also gotten 3 other trappers that month. Colter took a second and thought about it and said, "Yep, I think that's it for me. It's about time I retire." And retire he did. He hadn't been back to civilization for a long time, but when he got back, he picked up the money that was left for him from going on the Lewis and Clark expedition, used that money to buy a farm, he settled down, got married, and had a family. Later, a party of fur trappers going up the Missouri in spring of 1811 stopped by Colter's home to ask questions about the West. One of the group later wrote that Colter seemed to want to go with him, but felt like he probably shouldn't since he just got married. Soon after that, Colter died. Some say he died in 1812, others say 1813. And that was that. So now you know about John Colter, America's first mountain man and Giga Chad of early America.